Elara Voss moved through the ballroom like a ghost, her porcelain skin glowing under the gold-tinged light. The scar on her left cheekbone caught the candlelight, a jagged line that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of her heartbeat. She had no business being here. This was the kind of event where invitations were forged in blood, not paper, but her mother's dying wish had left her no choice. Her heels clicked against the marble floor as she scanned the crowd, searching for the man who had ruined her family's name. When her eyes landed on him, the world seemed to narrow. Kael Morro stood at the edge of the dance floor, his lean, sinewy frame draped in a charcoal tuxedo that made the shadows around him deepen. His jet-black hair was cropped short, framing a face that looked carved from obsidian. He was watching her. Not with curiosity, but with something colder. A predator sizing up prey. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice a low rumble. Elara's fingers trembled as she pressed the elevator button, her reflection in the mirrored wall warping into Kael's smoldering gaze. The badge on her lapel, missing. Her breath hitched. She'd left it on her kitchen counter, but when she'd returned from the apartment that morning, it was gone. Now, as the elevator doors slid open, her stomach dropped. Kael stood in the lobby, his dark suit cutting through the sterile white of the space. His eyes locked onto hers, and the air between them crackled. "You left this behind," he said, holding up her badge, its edges worn from her compulsive polishing. Her pulse throbbed in her throat. "I don't know what you want, but I'm not. You're coming with me," he interrupted, his voice a velvet blade. The words froze her in place. Her mind screamed at her to run, but her body obeyed his, stepping forward as if pulled by an invisible thread. The lobby seemed to narrow, the wall. Elara's breath came in shallow gasps as Kael Morro's shadow loomed in the doorway, his grip tightening around the missing work badge like a noose. The scar on her cheek burned under the hallway light, a silent reminder of the night her mother's body was found in the same building, years ago. "You don't want to know what I'm capable of," he had warned, his voice a velvet blade. Now, the weight of those words pressed against her ribs as she stood frozen, her pulse a frantic drumbeat in her ears. His eyes, black as the void between stars, held her in place. "Elara," he murmured, stepping closer, the scent of his cologne, cedar and something darker, wrapping around her like a promise. Her body betrayed her, leaning into him as if gravity itself had shifted. "What do you want from me?" she whispered, her voice a fragile thread. He didn't answer. Instead, his hand brushed the back of her neck, a caress that ignited a fire in her veins. Elara's fingertips hovered over the brittle parchment, her breath shallow as she traced the inked lines of the forbidden contract. The same one Kael had signed under the flickering lights of the archives, his hand overlapping hers in a moment that had felt like salvation. Now, the words seemed to writhe beneath her touch, mocking her. Her mind screamed at her to stop, to walk away, but her body refused to obey. The scar on her cheek burned as if it were a brand, a constant reminder of the night her mother's body had been found in the same building, the same contract clutched in her hand. A distant sound, footsteps, made her freeze. Her pulse thundered in her ears. Kael. She knew it was him before she saw him, his shadow stretching across the floor like a predator closing in. Her throat tightened. "You don't want to know what I'm capable of," he'd said. And yet, here she was, desperate to know. The door Elara's fingers trembled as she clutched the forged will, her reflection in the glass window of the law firm lobby warped by the storm outside. The air smelled of burnt coffee and old paper, the same scent that had haunted her since the night she found Kael's marriage certificate. Across the room, the woman who had just arrived, Kael's wife, held out a sealed envelope, her lips a tight line. "This subpoena is for your testimony," she said, her voice like a blade. Elara's heart pounded, the weight of the document pressing into her palm like a brand. She had spent years hiding from the truth, but now the truth was here, sharp and unrelenting. Her mind screamed at her to flee, to run back to the safety of her apartment, but her body refused to move. The memory of Kael's hands on hers in the archives flashed through her mind, a ghost of warmth against the icy cold of betrayal. She could feel the tears burning at the edges of her eyes, but she would not let them fall, not here, 2 hours later, Elara stood in the courtroom, the subpoena still burning in her pocket like a brand. The air was thick with the scent of old wood and something sharper, fear. Her fingers curled around the edge of the witness stand, her nails digging into the polished oak as if it might anchor her to the present. The judge's gavel had yet to fall, but the weight of the moment pressed down on her like a storm cloud. Kael sat across the aisle, his jaw clenched, his eyes locked on hers. She could see the war raging behind his gaze, the desperate need to protect her, the guilt that gnawed at him for dragging her into this. His hands were clasped tightly in his lap, knuckles white. The lawyer for the Morro estate stood, his voice smooth as oil. Mrs. Voss, you were present during the final moments of the will's signing. You witnessed the forgery. Her throat tightened. She had seen it, yes, but not in the way he meant. She had seen the